Alright guys, how's it going today? Kenny, sorry I was a complete asshole and said the things I said. I was not nice. Probably going to leave the video up in consideration of viewership. You're not a bad guy, but you sold me a bill of goods that you couldn't stand behind, and a lot of people, and that kind of sucked. So it'll probably come down at some point, but I'm going to leave it there for obvious reasons. Probably, you know, one of which benefits me. Next, I'd like to kind of really quickly address the idea on the P3D website that I can't actually see because they won't let me into the Discord. There's a comment about how Klob was the gentleman or person, alien bot, who saved or who hacked the majority of the FARC contract and distributed all those tokens to the people, giving them back about 70 cents on the dollar to what they lost. I thought that was, when they said that, I thought that was just a ploy to calm everybody down and everything. And then when I saw that they actually did that, my chin was on the floor. You know, it just blows me away to see Manso try to make somebody who did something philanthropic look bad. You know, that's the equivalent of a leader in like if, I don't know, it's kind of bad. You know, everybody does bad things, and then to say, oh, they did this and not this thing that benefited a bunch of fucking idiots, it benefited them, and instead of like bringing any attention to that, you bring attention to the idea that you saw the problem, and this is what the problem was, and the person who fixed it is an asshole. Dude, that's a fucking Manso. I mean, I pass character judgments all the time, and I pass character judgments immediately on people who want to hide their face. And I think it's a fairly clear assessment that even if what you're saying, that these Klob and these other people are really slimy, and they've stolen people's money, this act, you're not going to recognize it? I mean, because for some reason, Manso thinks that what he's doing with P3D is so special, but, I mean, dude, are you going to tell me the top 10, 20 holders of P3D aren't the reason why it's doing this? And, I don't know, I have a funny feeling that right before FOMO 3D comes out, all of a sudden there's going to be a lot of fear, and stuff's going to scare, and that's going to be really good, because as soon as they release FOMO 3D, well, the price is going down at P3D. It's just, you know, market manipulation 101, whether it's politics or the stock market, you know. I mean, $500 million, remember, guys, came into this cryptocurrency mark in a month, and $500 billion, not a billion, $500 billion, and then left. I mean, we can't see the writing on the wall or what. And that being said, I'd like to speak to something that the Golden Yogi shared with me. Fucking incredible. He's an amazing person that I find all kinds of inspiration just speaking to. I've had conversations with him directly that are just, I'm humbled. So he came up with this, and I want to share it with you. Before I do this, I'd like to preface it by asking, what is the anti-whale function in P3D that the other developers and the clones remove? What is that? I'm not familiar enough with it, and it could be this right here. I don't know. But from what I've gathered, it's not this. And please enlighten me to this. But this is an anti-whale function that Golden Yogi came up with, and he says, I'll read this to you. We all love the idea behind proof of weak hands. Some of us have made great returns. No one makes better returns than the earliest investor. In every case, the earliest investors are the devs and their friends. The data below illustrates a test where 3 different exact clones were deployed on a test net with different initial token price. The token incremental value of 0.000001 ETH does not change in this modification. I believe it is to be the solution to a more fair pricing among all that will still allow for wealth redistribution. I'm gathering what he's saying here is that all the other clones started out with a 0.000001 price. I think I'm missing 1 0. And by doing so, it's created a way disproportionate distribution of the tokens. He did this scenario where when the first person buys into ETH at that price point, they get 13,406 tokens. Well, the next person buys in, they get a 55% difference. The second person who buys the second token ends up buying 5,557 tokens at a 23% difference. And then the difference between token holders becomes very drastic as far as all the way down to like, it becomes the very beginning, or the first through the fifth. The price difference is well, the first one's nearly 30 points deviation of a price point. The next one is a deviation of over almost 10 points. And so, you know, we end up with a situation where at the end of the day, when the contract's finally released after 20 ether sold to whatever the ambassadors hold a total stake of 5.8 if we measure it at the 1.1 million tokens on the April the 30th. So that's really gnarly. And if we break that down further, if the contract only reaches 100 ETH, that means the ambassadors hold 44%. And if it goes up to 1,000 ETH, they still hold 14% at 1,000 ETH. And now he's come up with a different scenario in the yellow here. This is the one where he brings the price to 0.0001. And we get a little bit more fair distribution, where the first difference between the first and second ETH buyers in the ambassador list is only a 10% difference, but that's still pretty extreme. And what that leads to, if you use his yellow price point of 0.0001, you end up with, if it were April 30th, you'd have the same number of tokens, but the stakeholders would only, the ambassadors would only hold 4% at 1 million tokens. Now let's review this. I'm going to go off to the last one. Actually, I won't review this. His best scenario that he comes up with in his thing is raising the token price to 0.0005. And when you do that, the price point difference between the first and second ETH buyer, terrible using green here in print. On the screen it looks good, but it should have used a different color for print. There is only a 0.2% difference between the first and second ETH, and it just gets more and more equally distributed. That's amongst the ambassadors. And had that they started with that price point on April 30th, P3D at 1,157,000 coins, the ambassadors would have only held 2%. They would have held half of the tokens that everybody that's all available. And if there was only 100 ETH in the contract, they would hold 30% instead of 44%. So when we talk about a fair distribution, you know, it should start from the top, shouldn't it? You know, like P3D saying this is a more fair place for you to put your money. And you know, I don't know about the numbers, and this was run on a test net, but I'd like to see these numbers plugged in on a more empirical level where the test could be run where this might not turn into what Kenny's turned into, and I don't think it would, but to be completely honest with you, and it's very clear to any one of the fucking developers or people that have a brain, my brain didn't really pass algebra. I didn't pursue calculus because when I went to high school it was a daycare center and I really didn't have to in order to get by. And in college, you know, I pursued photography. When it came to the inverse square root of light fall off, yeah, I could wrap my mind around that. And you know, the mathematical equation to determine, you know, because it's simple, how much more light you need in order to illuminate something depending on how far it away is from its a source of illumination. You know, I can understand that. I understand infrared to ultraviolet and how that's the whole end of the wavelength of the light spectrum and how I can use that, because that was my, but I made a huge mistake. I should have done my calculus, especially if I want to play this game. And that is really what this comes down to. The people that are in control of this game are the ones that went beyond calculus, that, I don't know, I almost feel like Manso, Justo, and everybody that's hiding are the ones that in school, in a social structure, you know, growing up have put themselves into I'm a geek too. I mean, I've been, but I don't know. I think no matter who we are and where we come from and what we think of ourselves, we need to have a spine and stick up and not concern. We need to grow up and be adults. Because to think that just because you have a lot of money and you've created a vehicle to make money, it doesn't mean that you're going to get killed. It's when you start acting like the mafia, when you start acting like the government, that's when people are going to kill you. Nobody's going to kill you for, and using that as an excuse to hide, that's not why you're hiding. You're hiding because you're afraid of what other people think. That's why people hide. 90%, 99%, they hide because they care about what other people think. It's time to realize in life, people, what other people think of you ain't none of your business. If people standing around you don't like what you say, who you are, tell them to get a pair of sunglasses because your light shines so bright they can't deal with it. It's not your problem. Like, that's why these people are hiding, in my opinion. And like I said, I didn't take calculus, you know, but I do know I have been physically assaulted by women. And I've been physically assaulted by men. And I've been told people are going to kill me. I've had guys with guns on the street tell me they're going to shoot me. You know? Why should I be afraid? My heart's still beating. Here I am. I'm going to die one day. Fucking act like a man. If you are one. Or, you know, if your identity doesn't gender... If your identity is non-gender specific when it comes to the binary aspects of biology. You know, and if you're... You know, if you're that, that's fine. Even more so the reason why you should stand up and not care what other people think. I want one thing to be clear here, guys. What the whole point of this video essentially is we're all here. Why? Because of BitConnect. We saw something in BitConnect. 95% of us, I would put every dime I have on it. 95% of us were into BitConnect. And we found that idea fascinating. And that's why we can wrap our minds around P3D. Or proof of weak hands. And until we get people that have a hard enough time learning how to use MetaMask, until we get those people doing videos showing their divs every month, this is going to be a game for a small group of people preying on fucking gambling addicts. Run by the house. The house needs to come up with a better scheme. And in order to do that, the only way it's going to happen is by more fair distribution of the tokens, because these games are all ruled by whales, and you don't even have to look at the numbers. You can just look at the propaganda that's being pushed. I want us as a community of minions to speak to the idea of what's the next advancement in coins, and not ones that are promises. This is going to happen. The whale regulator, the regulation of whales, I hate that word, the more fair distribution of wealth is coming. And these whales that are hoarding and are doing the tricks they can in order to stay whales, those are what we need to write into the code. This is a perfect example of how to make it so the whales, if they're going to play the game, they're going to have to play it on the same level as everybody else. Why would that be bad? I don't see how that could be bad. Please tell me why that would be bad. And tell me that, and there's one more thing that Yogi shared with me that's like a doubler as a solution, a contract to run on top of this, just like doubler runs on top of P3D. Instead of doubler being a doubler, what if doubler was only returning 10%? How much faster would the first person in line start coming up? And if everybody just put 1 ETH in, not 20 ETH, not a half an ETH, but maybe have a contract where you put in a 0.1 ETH and you get 20%, you know, as soon as 10 people behind you come in, you know? And then another contract that's just exclusively, you can only get in with 1 ETH. And then you're getting another, 10 or 20 or 30% maybe as soon as people get behind you. Play this game in a way that's not stuck. And unfortunately, these ideas, and for developers to implement, shit, it would take me a lifetime if I ever learned code to do this. And so that's a pretty demanding, tall task to ask of the developers. And, you know, not to negate my gratitude to what developers will bring, but, you know, it might just take a long time until there's a much more larger army of people that understand Solidity. And I'm just curious as to whether or not, you know, what do like 5 people understand Solidity and 3 of them work for P3D? I don't know. Maybe that's the case. I sure hope not. And if that is the case, we're all fucked. I'm going to end it there.